let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well. Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, the day after Valentine's Day. Hopefully it was all good for everyone out here. Bitcoin loves you more than anything else in this world, perhaps. But we got a lot to talk about today, actually, with the advent of Friday closure for the weekly CME chart. We have gotten a lot of clarity on the more medium to long-term situation on Bitcoin. And because it is a 3-day weekend, it's also a time of factory in the more immediate time frame. So we'll be speaking about that as well, what to kind of look for. And also, because today is Saturday, I may be doing a Twitch stream later, but if I don't do a Twitch stream, it's for a good reason, because I'll actually be recording a couple of new bonus videos for the technical analysis program, which I'm really excited to do, as I've been doing the research for these ones for quite some time now, and to actually put it together and really get it out there is going to be very fulfilling for myself. Anyways, with all of that said, I want to also say that the Krown trading application has received another update. So let's get into it right now. I'd like to wish you the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest, but in the meantime, I'd like to also teleport you into the live scene right here, where we can go see that application together. And as you can see, the main page right here, more or less the same. However, all of the left-hand side attributes being built up even as we speak. And with the newest one coming just last night, we have not only new news, a new news tab right here. We can check out all the different major news channels, as well as my channel from YouTube. You know, just linking it right there. But also, if you are into altcoins, you can also check it out right on over here. And of course, the calendar for economic events, which actually do matter somewhat. some more important than other ones. But more importantly, you will see that if you are in the TA program or the options program or in any program that has access to videos for that matter, the big thing with that is that you can actually now take notes on the video itself. So you have quite literally a notepad on that video, which makes it just a lot more readily available to have it right there in front of your face. You can mark off times and whatnot for what you want to kind of highlight if a certain piece speaks specifically to you. And really happy with that sort of thing, because it does add a lot more value that we didn't really have at the prior venues. So slowly but surely we'll be adding more like simple things like that I do think really help bring the overall user experience to a higher level. And like I said, we'll be adding more and more of this functionality as each and every passing week goes by, with the next one being going to be the trading tab right over here, which will actually allow you to trade via the app. Pretty damn cool. So really excited about that one as well. And of course, you can get a good idea of what's going on as well for the coming updates. Anyways, with all of that said, let's actually get into the Bitcoin chart right now. And actually, not even the Bitcoin chart, the CME chart, which is a chart of Bitcoin futures. But more importantly, the big news is we actually did confirm on a weekly total closing basis above the top 200 band for the first time since this last major run that we saw, all the way from about $4,000 to $14,000 in middle of 2019. So this is a big deal for me, because not only did we sustain a close above, but I mean, you could also consider this our first open and close. And I do believe that with the 200 bands kind of opening up like this as well, we are very likely to see at least another leg of continuation, or at least another try of continuation to the upside here from a weekly standpoint basis, which weekly on Bitcoin does actually get the macro pretty damn well. This is obviously in line with all of our major triggers as well. You know, going over here to spot price action, I would look for spot price action to also confirm above the top 200 band as well. Unfortunately, we have to wait until Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time for that to be set in stone. And if that does happen, I would just ultimately be looking for Bitcoin to float its way upwards and onwards over the next, couple weeks to like a month or something like that. Probably back up to that 11,500-ish range, $12,000, the prior highs that we've been putting in all the way since June, July of 2019. And of course, going back to February 2018, right on over here, a major area of fuckery, also outlined very well by the volume profiles, showing that anywhere above this level, we have yet again another macro change behavior, saying that this volume profile over here looking even more sparse than what we're dealing with right now. So if you think Bitcoin's volatile right now, which it fucking is, it's going to be absolutely there's not really like a good degree to be made, a good comparison to be made between these two, but it's going to be a lot more, because this operates like exponentially in a sense. And I would say that anywhere above about $12,000 on a weekly closing basis, and we can talk about upwards targets after that. Of course, 16,000 would be in the cards, and 20,000 would be in the cards, but generally Bitcoin very, very likely to float back onto the prior high longer term. Now, that's obviously not happening right now. For right now, I do want to talk about and remind myself about the CME chart running over here that not only are we trending above the top 200 band now confirmed, but we do see that the inverted head and shoulders still very much working out, and of course a perfect retest coming into this week of the neckline broken of last week's closure, now with a measured move all the way again to about 11,500, 12,000 bucks. Again, that same area that's gotten our last major highs on a weekly closing basis, as well as a volume profile suggesting as well. So we got pattern, we have we have momentum indicators, we have trending indicators, and I mean we actually have not just one trending indicator with the weekly 200 bands, but also of course when we go back on over here and we check out all the major movement averages, they are in that same posturing that we expect during long-term upwards markets. So I do think that the long-term is looking pretty damn good. That doesn't mean that the short-term is going to have its ebb and flows. I'm sure that it will, and because it is a 3-day weekend right now with Americans on holiday for Monday, I would expect a lot of fuckery with both major, massive, nasty tests to the downside and probably even a few wicks to the upside as well. But I do think that Bitcoin kind of like keeps it in this range, which we'll speak about in just a little bit here on the lower time frames. But I really want to put the spotlight on the higher time frames now, because I do believe that this is very, 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 very important. And looking at the weekly moving averages right here, we do see that yellow 21 exponential moving average is, well, price action isn't just opening and closing above that, it's also got a positive slope, and now an aggressively positive slope. We have not seen this much of a positive slope ever since April 2019 on this breakout right in over here. And you can see that just generally throughout the genesis of Bitcoin, the whole lifespan of Bitcoin, anytime that Bitcoin's been above that yellow 21 exponential moving average on the weekly, generally bullish, anytime below, generally bearish, and then the slope of that 21 giving you more of it's giving you another piece of edge kind of standardized against that. And anytime that Bitcoin has both been above the yellow 21 and it has a positive slope, those are your very long-term upwards markets. Although this more recent one was only about 6 months, but still 6 months pretty damn good as far as I'm concerned. Actually, to be fair, more like 3 months from April to June. What is that? April, May, June. Yeah, actually 3 months. Fair enough. Anyways, not only that, but we are going to see the red 10 symbol cross the upside of that probably in the next week or two, I'd imagine. And that's just going to, add on one, it's just going to give it one more tick in that direction, essentially telling you that the trend is strengthening to the upside, which is exactly what you expect, as Bitcoin is not only having an inverted head and shoulders pattern play out, but also all sorts of other major trending indicators agreeing with that. And of course, not just that, but our momentum oscillators. Looking at weekly RSI, we do see that we did confirm above this blue box territory a couple weeks ago. I do think that at some point in time we will come back down and test around this region, but I really, really like that Bitcoin is getting above those areas that we spoke about, as well as confirming a weekly trend reversal by getting a higher high above the October spike. And then also getting back above the same area on the RSI, which has actually been a pretty damn good preliminary indication of a change of behavior on Bitcoin on the macro. Anytime that we've been above this blue box territory between about 55 and 56 marker, Bitcoin's been bullish. Anytime below, generally bearish. And we're living well above right on over here. And I do think that we're probably going to test around the bullish control zone and then come back down and test around the blue box territory, at which point I will probably be looking for a long-term position. And on top of that, we do see that weekly Stokes getting into the bullish control zone for the first time since the rally to 14,000 essentially. Again, getting a pretty damn good read on price action here as well. And then more importantly, we can go over and check out this. Unfortunately, it is a little bit early to really be putting a lot of weight on this, but I do want to show that the monthly monthly momentum oscillators are starting to turn around as well. So monthly Stokes did get rejected from the bullish control zone on that last tick. That's pretty damn common after being away from it for quite some time. But the resiliency within this region, as it does start to indicate that we're going to have another tick back up to the upside, would be incredibly bullish for, at the very least, another test into the bullish control zone. Extremely likely we'll break into the bullish control zone and fill out this space zone over here. Again, if that's confirmed. Now, here's the thing: we still have like another half month of February to go, so it's a little bit further away from visual view, but it's in the cards right now. And I would say that any sort of a monthly close above about 10,200, very, 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 very good. Not only that, we are above all major major moving averages and pushing off the red 10 simple. This looks more or less fine to me, and you do see that at the very least, I do think that Bitcoin's going to test around like 10.9, 11,000-ish region. Anyways, I want to make sure that I'm recording. I am recording. My microphone's working as well. That's good. That's great. Already 10 minutes into the video, so who knows what's going to happen next. But monthly RSI as well, regaining the exponential. That was confirmed last month, but just more importantly, we are starting to see it sustain. So more or less good here. I do think that's going to test around the bullish control zone again. So a lot of these things looking more or less fine. Monthly Jewel, it's not necessarily a signal, but it is in a more bullish posturing longer term. So I do want to just start off with the longer term really being set here, which I do like quite a bit. Now we'll go into the lower term timeframes, which, which for me right now, it's going to be like a daily. But looking at the daily right here, what do we see? Let's actually put back on all major movement averages and see what they are, how they're kind of turned right now. And of course, we have all lower periods trading above higher periods, which, is a strong uptrend. That's exactly what you expect. Golden Cross happened, about a month or two ago, or sorry, about 2 weeks ago, actually. Anyways, overall, as far as even the lower term timeframes go, I'm not bearish even in the slightest, as long as Bitcoin's above this like 10-150, 10-200 pivot on a 12-hour daily closing basis. Obviously, higher time frame going to be better. If I'm going to be using a lower time frame like a 4-hour, I would not go. I would just not. But I would not go any. I would not go any higher than 10,100 for that. Confirmation, essentially, for that move. So as long as the 4 hours closing above about 10,100, no real major issues with it. 12-hour and daily above about 10-150, 10-200, a little bit more efficacious, a little bit more confidence inducing. But if I had to use a lower time frame, that's what that's kind of pivot that I use right now. As Bitcoin kind of sets itself above this 10,200-ish region on this blue box territory, using it as support, I do look at that as overall constructive, and I do look at that as overall fine, more medium term, short and medium term, setting it up for that next push above this blue box right over here, which will be initiated very, 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 very likely by even just price action ticking above the high of it at 10,550. Although again, do you want to wait for a close, or do you want to wait for a or do you want to wait for a tick above? Closure is usually going to be more confidence inducing. In this case, I would wait for a 4-hour delta closing above about 10,450, and then yes, we actually do have a measure move pointing us a little bit higher towards. Hold on, let me get rid of this right here. Towards this blue box zone over here at about 10,900 to 11,000. So that's what I'd be looking for on the short term. Of course, could it be that Bitcoin actually breaks this blue box, the blue box of peace and prosperity, or doom and destruction right here to the downside? Yes, of course, that's possible. And if that were to happen, I would look for a move probably back down to about 9850-ish region, and then a bounce there, and then we'll come back and reassess. As far as the macro goes, I am not bearish at all whatsoever, as long as we're above 9600 on like a weekly closing basis. Even a 3-day closing basis, good enough for me. But lower timeframes, could ebb and flow here a little bit. Although I would still say that overall, I'm more or less just sideways and bullish here, as long as Bitcoin hangs out above this blue box right here. That's completely fine, completely normal. Consolidating above a major broken resistance is very, 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 very constructive long term, and I really like this chart. I mean, this chart right here is exactly what I want to see. If something's going to be a little more long term, healthier, all of this rally is a great case study, because you see Bitcoin have these nice moves to the upside. They're not too intense. They are, they certainly feel intense for someone who might be coming from traditional markets or Forex, but for Bitcoin, this is kind of par for the course. We're not really doing any like outlier sort of moves here. And then it comes back down, fills the last breakout area, spends a little bit of time consolidating, and then boom, next move up. Same thing right on over here, comes back down, fills the last, spike area, and then moves on up, comes back down, fills the last spike area, and then moves on up, and then comes back down, fills the last spike area right here, and then moves on up, and then that's exactly what we're doing right here as well. So I do look at that as a long-term fine. This is what a healthy rally looks like. Again, doesn't mean that it can't come down here, and I'm sure that because it is a 3-day weekend, we will likely see fuckery, and I really don't want to see Bitcoin break to the upside over the weekend. Although, it's not the end of the world if it happens, but I would like to see real sustained moves happen during the real trading week. And the real trading week, at least in my experience, is when traditional markets are trading alongside CMEs, which CMEs will trade on Monday, even though it is a holiday for traditional traditional markets. But I would be very hesitant to look at that price action on those, off days as good points to be kind of, placing longer term trades. You can certainly trade the lower time frames on these babies, but the higher time frames, there's just too much on the line for what I think should be had during more efficacious times, which is again going to be those times when CMEs are trading alongside traditional markets. Anyways, looking at this right here. What do we see on momentum oscillators? We actually do see 12-hour Stochs coming down. Not necessarily good because we actually did break this trend line right in over here. Again, it is happening on a weekend, so I do think that Bitcoin's likely to kind of have a nice little ebb and flow here. I think that we are going to get some more spikes down around 10,100. I think that we're probably going to get some more spikes around 10,400 right around here. But again, because this is the weekend time and it's a little bit of an extended weekend, I don't think that those areas are going to break. And if it does break over a weekend, I'd look for that price action to revert back during the week action. So if we actually did break down to the downside here and initiated that move to like 98.50ish region, I would actually be looking for that to be bought back on up starting into next week, especially alongside of the way that the weekly Trollinger Bands closed, or sorry, the week where the weekly closed in relation to the Trollinger Bands on CMEs. I would look for that to have a similar reaction by Sunday close for spot price action at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So CMEs did close at about 10,500. I believe they have around $100 premium on price action with regards to spot. We can actually narrow it down to the exact fucking hour on which they closed. And on this one, we do see that this was 14th of February at 1500 my time. So that would be 14th at 1500 my time. Bitcoin spot was trading right here, right around $10,350. So I would look for Bitcoin to find its, kind of nestle itself in around there. By tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, when the weekly closes. Now, between that time and now, what sort of price action we're likely to get? We're probably likely to get another test to the downside here. Just like yesterday, I said it was likely that we get a test up to 10,400ish region, which we did actually. So nicely done, myself. Give myself a fucking congratulations. How much can I suck my own dick? Nobody knows, and nobody fucking wants to know, except for Marilyn Manson apparently. But also likes that. Anyways, I do think that we're probably going to get another test to the downside here. I don't think that this area breaks. I do think that we will get a test though, 10,100, 10,150ish region. Now, if it does break, like I said, it's not the end of the world, especially if it happens on the weekend. But I would look for a move down to about 98.50 at that point and a bounce there, and then come back and reassess the next day. But again, I'm not leaning towards that happening. I think that we test down here, hold it up again, and then end the week, somewhere right around here. That's going to set up not just CMEs, but also spot trending above the top band on the Trollinger Bands here. And I just generally look at that as strength. The top Trollinger Band, by the way, for spot price action coming in at around 10,250 to 10,300ish region. So any close above there, which by the way, the Bitcoin was hanging around 10,350 on spot when CME's closed for Friday, would be good, more medium to long term, setting up for that move, not just to about 11,000, but really 11,500 to 12,000 bucks. But that can still take a few weeks, maybe even a month and a half, something like that. So I'm not really in a humongous hurry right now, because realistically the lower timeframes for Bitcoin, and I'm speaking about like medium timeframes right here on the on a daily, but these timeframes are starting to show a little bit of signs of well, I wouldn't say exhaustion, but I would say that perhaps a nice little pullback area. You do see that daily RSI has been is breaking this trend line, it looks like right now, unfortunately. And if that does happen, I probably would look for it to come back down and base around the low 60s, it looks like, and probably another bounce there. Now, we will have multiple trend lines kind of competing here. We have a long-term one coming in from the November lows. That would be coming in all the way, you can see that it's rising over time, but it would be coming in at the current trajectory somewhere around the edge of the bearish control zone. So I don't think that that's going to be relevant to what we're looking at right now. But we also do have another competing trend line right here. which is essentially where we're going to come in at that low 60 number. So they all do matter. And I actually do put a lot more weight on trend lines, on diagonal trend lines on RSI, just because they just seem to play out better. And RSI just operates as basically like a line chart in the way that I look at it. It does tend to actually have more efficacy when using diagonals on RSI, whereas on price action, I don't really like diagonals. And diagonals certainly work, but they're really only going to be working if they line up with the horizontal naturally anyways. So it's just easier to use the horizontal to begin with. But yeah, the way that this is acting right here, I still consider this as overall constructive, but we will be battling some bearish divergence now, to be fair, on the daily, and I believe on the 12 hour as well. I mean, certainly if we have it on the daily, it will be on the 12 hour. Do we have the same one on the 12 hour? Actually, not as much. You do have this spike right here and this spike right here. But I do believe that that's mostly played out. We went from 10,550 all the way to 10,100-ish region. It's a $400 move, so it's like a 4% move. I think it's relevant to say that we probably did play that one out. So actually, funnily enough, it's not present on 12 hour. It is present on daily. So that makes me think that it's actually probably not gonna end up being like this on the daily. Right now, it looks like we're gonna confirm some bearish divergence on the daily, but that's only gonna happen if we really take out this spike low right here at about 10,075. So I could further encapsulate the range that we spoke about on the lower time frames once again. So not only just a 12-hour delta close below, let's call it like 10,150, or a daily close below 10,150, or a 4-hour close below 10,100, but also just waiting for a tick below 10,075, or wherever the exchange that you watch had this little spike that we saw on the 12th of February to the downside. That's probably going to initiate that continuation down to the 9,800-ish region if it does happen. But I'm not really, with the way that all these major moving averages are not just in a bullish posture, but also have a pretty aggressive, not even aggressive slope, but just a nice positive slope. It makes it very difficult to be bearish. So it is good that this is kind of happening on a weekend, because it would allow it to somewhat unravel itself, somewhat unfuck itself. And then realistically, I look at my CMEs, my CME oscillators running over here to gauge the more long-term health of this. And looking at daily RSI, I think that this is completely fine. This is very constructive. Once again, right here, you do see that we completed the ascending triangle to the upside alongside the bullish control zone. And it's the first time that we've really sustained in this region ever since the rally to fucking 14,000 from, March to June in 2019. And this to me is a big deal. So there's also no bearish divergence present on CMEs at all. So I would say that daily on spot price action, if it does play out, it's only going to be a quick spike and likely not to be considered truly potentially devastating until we get that same divergence present on CMEs. And basically, for what it's worth, I don't trade any indicator unless if it's like present on CME nowadays, and that goes especially for the Joule, by the way. So if you are getting signals on the Joule during the weekend for a lower time frame and you don't see it on CMEs, that's usually not the best sign. And vice versa, if you do see it on CMEs but not on spot price action, that's usually a good sign that it is going to play out. So I put a lot more weight on CMEs, and I think that CMEs are just the better chart to be watching. We do see that daily Stokes are getting way up there. That's completely fine. I expect them to be up there during periods of strong price action. And not only that, we do see that's kind of forming its own ascending triangle right here as well. Now, I do think that it's going to give another try to the upside, but that's probably going to be the next blow off that we've been looking for. By the way, completely forgot to talk about this. Open interest still hanging above that 1.4 billion with a B marker. So I still think that we have that, I still think that we have that next sort of move that does start to melt a lot of that way, hopefully below three quarters of a billion, 750 million or lower than that would be good. And that's going to mark off like the next major local top for like a higher time frame, I'd imagine. So and personally speaking, when everything's kind of turning up here, I do think that comes to the upside, whether it happens at around 11,000 or 11,000 or basically 12,000 right in over here. I don't have a strong opinion on. I would say it's probably more likely to be 12,000, but the market has a very sadistic way in making you wait for all these things to kind of play out together. Anyways, So that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's all looking well and good. What do we have on? Yeah, weekly CMEs don't really have too much as far as signals going, because it just doesn't have too much price action history. As far as even the lower timeframes on CMEs, this looks completely fine to me. Just looks like it's getting reaccumulation right here. And again, that's all comes with the caveat that that 4-hour dildos are still maintaining a closure above basically the 21 on CMEs. So again, a much easier chart to read. RSI reads on the lower timeframes for a CME are more or less healthy as well. No major divergences to be found. All of them have been kind of played out, and to me, this is completely fine. We're also seeing momentum also just turn back up. This is 4-hour Stokes, 3-hour Stokes right here, 2-hour Stokes pointed back up as well, and hourly Stokes, and all of them kind of forming trend lines. So it would suggest that they all do kind of have another move to the upside and probably meet these trend lines. Let me just kind of draw them out, or I guess they saved it for the prior chart, but 2 hours going right there. What about 3-hour? Actually, the 3-hour doesn't have that same trend line, or maybe it's a little bit higher. In fact, maybe coming all the way back. Oh, it is coming back all the way from here. Nice. 1, 2, 3 touches. Beautiful. So I do think that when CMEs open back up, we probably do see Bitcoin, try some more upside. Whereas compare that with spot price action, what are we seeing here? We're actually going to see them all turn down most likely. Technically, the 3-hour does want to turn down here. Let's see, the 4-hour is actually turning up, to be fair. 2-hour is turning down, and hourly is down as well. So that's the very annoyingness of Bitcoin price action when you're looking at it, from spot price action to CMEs. And I would say that again, CMEs just their indicators seem to have a lot more efficacy when it comes down to like actually playing out when a signal is given. Whereas this is, weekend bullshit right here. It's disagreeing with CMEs. So that tells me that we're probably just going to test this range a few more times. Again, the range being about 10-150 to the downside, 10-100-ish region maybe. And then probably, don't break it, spend some time spiking it, scaring everyone like you see right on over here, gathering some more shorts on the board, and then just floating back upwards and onwards. Pretty much been the crux of what I've been saying for the last like week or so, or a week and a half and so. And I'd pretty much be sticking with that. Historical volatility percentile also agreeing that we are in a little bit of a contraction phase. This is hourly right here. It is coming down quite aggressively. And I think all the lower timeframes are basically doing the same. Yeah, same thing with the 2-hour, the bi-hourly, hashtag gay for TA. We see 3-hour, same sort of thing. Nice declining tops right here, and the moving average on this is certainly got a negative slope. 4-hour, same thing as well. So all the lower timeframes consolidating, all the lower timeframes contracting, which tells me that we're going to go through a little bit of a phase of consolidation right here, and that to me is more or less fine, more or less healthy. Again, as long as that major area does not get broken. I think the 12-hour is also still interesting. We are seeing it cool off once again, but it is still above that moving average on historical volatility percentile, which tells me that I do think that for the medium time frames, this move is still moving, for lack of a better term. We're still going to see expansion here most likely, and by the time that we get CMEs opening up tomorrow at around 5 p.m. Eastern time, we should see that we'll probably see another move in that direction to start to really fill out that trend line a little bit more. Now I will say this: 12-hour Jewel 12-hour Jewel actually kind of looks nasty here, to be fair. Not necessarily a big fan of that. Not necessarily a big fan of that at all. I'm curious though, is it on CMEs? It actually is starting to formulate on CMEs as well. So, we are going to get some pretty nasty sell signals relatively soon. But does Bitcoin have another push to the upside before then? I think probably yes. Probably yes. Of course, I can be wrong with that. But I'd really look for like one more major move to the upside. Maybe not even major, but like, $500 move is kind of a major move. If Bitcoin gets lucky, maybe like 11.5 or 12,000. So make that a $1,000 or $1,500 move. But and then I look for like a major top to be put in. You're probably going to see massive volatility spikes. You're probably going to see open interest get absolutely shattered, like probably cut in half, and then Bitcoin will go through a little bit of a consolidation phase. And we'll just have to kind of see that one as it happens, I suppose. But yeah, looking at 12-hour historical volatility percentile on CMEs, by the way, you can see that we're actually still in a major contraction phase over the long period of time, which is really, really interesting to me. Now, I don't know which one I trust more for something like this, because technically speaking, CMEs are not going to have as much price action history to measure something like this. And a 12-hour is not necessarily, it's certainly not a higher time frame, but for CMEs, which has been around for about 2 years now, well, it should actually be good enough for that. But you can see that we're wedging ourselves into this region right here, which suggests that probably the macro formation that we're looking at, meaning that basically the macro range is about 9,600 to the downside. That's when I start to get bearish once again, and about 11,500 to 12,000 bucks to the upside. That's when I really start to get like, start talking about like 16,000, 20,000 again. Probably going to be resolved on a break above or below one of those levels around this date right here, probably coming in April of this year, sometime in April this year. So we got another 2 months. It goes January, February, March, April. Yeah, so 2 months. Hey, I know my fucking months pretty damn well, and I can count them, and I'm very happy about that. So there you go. So yeah, I would be looking for Bitcoin to either be above about 11,500, 12,000 by that time, or below 9,600, and probably coming back down to like 7,500 if that were to happen. I mean, it would be pretty damn nasty. But again, don't confuse that with the short-term ebbs and flows on Bitcoin, because right now this chart is still pretty much stock standard. So what else do we want to look at? I suppose that we could do a brief overview of traditional markets and how they close out the week. Holy shit! What do you know? Another new all-time high, baby. Once again, and I'm not saying this to sound arrogant or anything like that, but little bit of a down open. What happens after that? Gets bought back on up, just keeps on marching its way upwards and onwards. It's fucking beautiful. And again, looking at, you don't want to be paying attention to stocks during these times. You want to be looking at RSI, and daily RSI is very, very healthy here. I really, really like that read. Weekly, phenomenal close, and SPY got back above the exponential, on the weekly on RSI, and sustaining in the bullish controls, and after rejecting, getting below it. So this is still strong. I'm still bullish on this. I do believe I have a measure move pointed a little bit further north towards about 345, and then I'd probably be looking for a local high to be put in there. This move still just melting up, just absolutely beautiful. I think that's kind of, and again, I'm not a political person. I don't support any political candidate. Don't really care who's president, and my whole life's philosophy is not to be dependent on whoever is like king of the world, essentially. But I would say that the stock market going up while the Democratic national debates are going on does suggest that the market thinks that Trump is going to win again, and the market's usually right on those sorts of things. They tend to know. And there's that filthy they once again. But yeah, keep an eye on that, because the market continuing upwards and onwards is a reflection of essentially Wall Street's idea, and just a general market's idea that Trump's probably going to stay in presidency. As well, it's again not a political statement, but it's no secret that Trump has been pretty much amazing for traditional markets. I've seen stocks like fucking Microsoft go from like $40 when I was trading it to literally 150, 180 bucks, all during Trump's presidency, which is, there's a lot to it. It's a heavily nuanced situation, but I basically saw the stock market go straight up ever since he's gotten elected. Anyways, let's go check out how the Forex pairs close this week out. Dollar yen still within our rising channel, I believe, although I do think that it is going to make a test towards the top side of the channel at some point, the top side being around like 110.5. I do think that is switching around to a more bullish posturing here longer term. It's a little bit of a difficult chart to read, but I do think that it is going through a long-term are we seeing accumulation or distribution? We're kind of seeing distribution, actually, more so, but the monthly I think is fine. I think the monthly looks like accumulation or reaccumulation to me. The weekly looks like potentially distribution, but I put more weight on the higher time frames, and in this case, I would say that I do feel a little more confident about the upside here. Probably more long term, back up to 111.5. Pound yen. What did we see? Did the weekly close well? It did actually back above the 200 simple. This one, all you've had to do, all I've had to do, don't put this on fucking you, put this on me, man, is just play this range that we've had in here for literally 2 months now, since 16th of December. It's literally fucking 2 months. All I've had to do is buy on this support, sell on this resistance. I haven't played this one once since that time, and it does look to me like it's getting ready for another test of the resistance right here, and with the closure above the weekly 200, I actually do think that it's probably gonna have another chance to break it this coming week. At that point, it'd probably initiate a move towards this 146 region right around here. That last prior spike high, and just by getting back above there, that would look pretty damn good. Gold, what do we see on gold? Gold looking good as well, almost hitting our 1590 target. I still do think that it's going to officially tap that area. This is still looking like reaccumulation to me. I would still be bullish on gold. I do not understand why so many people are wanting to be bearish on gold. It seems like the very, very popular position right now. And again, I'm not a gold bug. I don't care to trade gold. I don't care about gold like at all as an asset. But as far as a chart, pretty damn good chart, and I do think that it's going to officially test this area. And actually, longer term, I do think that it's going to take it out. Is it going to take it out on this next pass? Actually, probably yes. Looking at daily Stokes, we do see that they're having a fresh cross up. Daily RSI looking very healthy as well, playing out some hidden bullish divergence. So I do think that we're probably gonna have the momentum over this next week to probably break to the upside and initiate that next move towards 1610 to 1630ish region. I do like that chart. What about euro dollar heading down to our lower target right around 108 even? Absolute monstrosity of a chart, terrible, disgusting, nasty. All higher time frames, incredibly bearish, and probably even more continuation after that 108 target is hit. But I do think a bounce at 108 first, and then perhaps continuation down to a little bit, maybe 105 and a half. I mean, this is in meltdown right here. Anyways, let's go check out Link. How's the Link Army doing right now? Looking pretty good on a monthly, probably the best chart in cryptocurrency land. Looking at weekly, weekly is going to have an extraordinarily high chance of closing above the top, closing on not only just new highs, but also completing this ascending triangle to the upside. And I would still have that measure move pointed towards about 50 to 51,000 Satoshis. And I do think that is going to hit there. It has been one of the best charts in cryptocurrency land for a long time. And there's going to be ebbs and flows in the daily, of course. Maybe comes back down and tests around 39,500 Satoshis, but I would be looking for a bounce there. I am not bearish on this thing at all whatsoever. No questions asked, as long as it's above about 36,700 Satoshis, especially. And from a weekly closing basis, that could even be lowered all the way down to 34,500 Satoshis. I do think that it probably hits that upwards target sooner rather than later. And with Bitcoin being bullish, it's going to allow the strong alts to be even stronger and even better. And this one being, relatively strong in comparison to the general market throughout even all of 2018 when everything was taking dump dildo parties. Well, this one essentially in a long-term uptrend. So that was a damn good signal that this one was going to, survive the bear market, and not only just survive, but also thrive when Bitcoin actually turns back around. That's exactly what we're seeing right here. I still stick with what I said on it, and generally really fucking good. Even though, the way that the momentum oscillators are operating on the weekly make me think that 50,000 Satoshi target is actually only going to be a medium term stop. Weekly Stokes, very, very good here, very fucking healthy. Weekly RSI, incredibly healthy as well. Do you think that is going to come back down and test around this region? But overall, this is an incredibly good read. I do think that this is the best chart in cryptocurrency land, and likely to get rewarded more. Let's go check out Cardano. How's Cardano doing today? Cardano going to have a major chance, again, another extraordinarily high chance, as we said the last couple weeks, to close above this blue box territory. I do think that it's going to do it this week. Very, 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 very likely, and I would look for it to float its way upwards and onwards towards about 850 Satoshis. I do think that this one's really starting to turn the corner as well. Again, I'd like to see the weekly confirm above 650 Satoshis, but same thing here, kind of weekly oscillator is looking more or less healthy. I'm not a huge fan of Cardano as like a project. Kind of see, I don't really have like the time to look into those sorts of things, but just the amount of tribalism around it usually gets me skeptical. But as far as the chart goes, I do think that this one's ready to rally. I think that's representative of a lot of alts in the space. In general, if Cardano is looking okay for a rally, probably most average altcoins are going to be doing about the same, I'd imagine. Anyways. Let's go check out a couple other top beautiful, highly altruistic altcoins, because they would never do you wrong. And let's see how they're doing right now. Mr. Buterol, how you doing, my friend? Oh man. Any sort of a weekly close tomorrow above 275.5, and I would look for next week to work its way upwards towards like 310ish region. I'll have to put in another blue box territory here. This is more of a medium term target. Again, ebb and flow in a lower term time frame. Going at the daily right here. Actually did did confirm above that blue box. So, you know, we've already kind of come back down and tested around the blue box. It could be that we get another swipe lower towards like 272 region, but I'm not really looking for a top to be put in here just yet. I do think that this one is looking frothy. We do have a golden cross that is confirmed. We haven't really come down and tested any major movement averages since then. So I do think that maybe one more big blow off move to the upside, probably around 300 to 310-ish region, and then we'll come back down and consolidate alongside one of the major movement averages. So it's kind of in line with what we're looking at on Bitcoin as well. But overall, this is long-term healthy here. I do think that the weekly is the big one to be watchful of. So while I do think that 310 or 300-ish region does knock back price action at first pass, longer term, if Mr. Buteral even closes anywhere above like 310, incredibly, phenomenally, absolutely face melting bullish, I would look for a medium term move initiated about $200 higher towards $500 essentially, and I don't think it's going to stop there. Again, it would be like kind of a short term stop. This is quite literally in the midst of creating an uptrend. We do have a higher low in place. Could we get a higher high above 310 on a weekly closing basis? If that happens, you know, again, we could actually even make a measure move on this one. It's not something that you're going to find in the textbooks, but I do find that this actually does work quite well. That actually would be your $500 target, to be fair. So not bad. But you know, after that, what would we be looking at after that? I mean, you know, it's gonna take its time, but I imagine that Bitcoin would be breaking maybe like 12,000 in confluence with that, and then we could talk about, you know, a move back up to like $800. I mean, basically the prior highs. It would look pretty damn good. So as it stands, long term, very, very good. Short term, you know, probably comes into a little bit of turbulence relatively soon around that $300 to $310 marker right there. What about Mrs. Litecoin? How's this beautiful bitch doing? Once again, I absolutely love her. I only respect her, and you know what? With respect comes high responsibility. And this bitch actually does have some bearish divergence on a daily, but not confirmed. We have not confirmed a local high here just yet. If it does get confirmed, I would look for another short-term move down to about $77, and perhaps even continuation all the way down to $74. That would come in line with Bitcoin likely coming back down to test around 98.50, or maybe not. Yeah, about 98.50. Here's the thing though, we just got a fresh golden cross confirmed as of last night. Today's closure, or sorry, later tonight's closure for Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time will further confirm this, and I would be looking for it just to generally float up over the medium to long term back up towards about $90 to $92 on the next move, and then another short term consolidation, again kind of in line with the other ones that we're looking at. I do think that we're ready for they probably generally get another leg up, and that's where we're going to see like the actual kind of pullback and consolidation. Perhaps it is reversal. I don't think that is going to be, but I would be looking for a more medium term consolidation, you know, where people get antsy once again as people start to put in positions, and you know the open interest probably going to get run up massively once again, and then you know resolution, and we'll just have to see that one as it happens, if it happens. But of course, on a weekly basis, Mrs. Litecoin looking more or less fine, looking more or less good, confirming not just an inverted head and shoulders right around here a couple weeks ago, but also living well above the last pair of highs that we see. So it is quite literally uptrending on a weekly basis, and then on top of that, we do have a measured move to be pointed here, and I do think that I already have it in there, and it's probably pointed towards about $90 to $92. So yeah, I do think that it reaches for that area, and then probably pulls back a little bit, and then we'll come back and reassess it. That's probably going to come alongside Bitcoin testing around either 11,000 or 11,005, and Buteral testing around like 310-ish region, we'll call it. So yeah, don't really have any major issues with those charts. Lower term timeframes mostly going to follow Bitcoin. The 4 hour here does look like it wants to test to the downside. So I do think that Bitcoin and company are going to test to the downside over the weekend. So Mrs. Litecoin probably like $78 right here. Alongside Bitcoin like 10,100, 10,150-ish region, alongside Buteral maybe something like 270, 272 region, and then I'd look for a bounce there. What else do we want to check out? Maybe one or two more of these highly altruistic altcoins. Maybe we could go check out Stellar. I know a lot of people like this one. Bearish divergence present on the 4 hour, so you know it's going down to the fucking floor. No, but I do think that probably pulls back down to like 8 cents region. Short term, higher term timeframes though, this is really, really good here. You do see that the weekly was in danger of getting a death cross between the 50 and the 200, the green and the purple right there. But with this price action as it stands, it will not happen. Now, here's the thing. The weekly closes tomorrow. So I would say that any sort of a weekly closure, especially above the 200 exponential moving average and like infinitely more above the 50 exponential moving, the 55 right here at about 9 cents would be incredibly bullish, and I would extend this move probably back up towards this region, like into the double digit cents once again, like 11 to 11 and a half cents. So that's what I'd really be keeping an eye out for, the for tomorrow's incredibly important closure. Shorter term timeframes though, again, ebb and flow, but I wouldn't really sound any alarm bells until this one starts closing 4-hour dildos below about 8 cents. That's where things start to turn around a little bit there for the nastier. Do we want to look at Ripple again? Nah, we've already looked at Ripple enough. What about EOS? We could look at EOS really quick. Same thing on the 4-hour, a little bit sluggish on the 4-hour. Maybe comes back down to like $5 even. Yeah, that'd be around the daily 10 simple as well. It's completely fine. But longer term, I do like what's going on here. Weekly also very, very important, and I do think that this one's just going to ultimately over medium and long term work its way up towards about $6, and that's going to be like its next short term stop, I'd imagine. And kind of very, very similar chart here as we see on Mr. Buterol. And most cryptocurrencies have this same chart, and then the varying levels of strength kind of relate towards how close it is to that last major weekly high that a lot of these guys put in. Anyways, I just realized that this video is already fucking 44 minutes long. I'll briefly touch up on Bitcoin to end this one out, and we'll go down to the lower term timeframes with the with the idea in mind that I put a shit ton more weight on how the weekly closes tomorrow, and how CME is already closed. So I already like that one more than what Spot's going to probably show me. But short term timeframes probably does come back down, tests around this blue box territory, maybe like 10-100, 10-150ish region. If it breaks it, then yes, I would look for a move down to about 98, 98.50ish region, but I'm not really looking for that to happen. I do think that we're going to get a spike down here and then just slowly but surely kind of float our ways upwards and onwards. With regards to historical volatility percentile, it does say that we have a less than 16% chance again today to break below that 10,100ish region, and less than a 16% chance to break above 10,400. So we're likely to just range here a little bit. I think spikes to the downside and the upside probably coming in the next day or two, and then we'll probably have a resolution in this coming week. And I do think that this comes to the upside again, as long as we're above about 10,150, even on the lower term time frame closing basis. I'm more or less bullish here. I look at this as constructive and look at this as healthy, and any sort of a move back above 10,550, I would look for that to get extended towards 10,900, 11,000 relatively fast. Anyways, that's going to do it for right now. I'm hungry as fuck. I need to go eat. Then I'm going to record some videos and then perhaps even a Twitch stream. But first things first, priorities. And with all of that said, wishing you well over here from a very, actually not so bad Helsinki feeling today. It is quite overcast, but take care, and until next time.